Later that day, John had messaged my best friend on a Facebook account with a fake name and then said,
"So what were you two doing last night?"
I went to the police and I showed them a photo, as well as the messages he sent to her, and they again said that wasn't proof and that he didn't do anything wrong. The harassment continued to the point that I actually had to change jobs because I was so scared that he was going to show up in my work and try to kidnap me. Well, about a month after the kidnapping, John had started calling me around midnight over and over. I then heard something at one of my windows, and I realized that he was trying to break into my house. I called my best friend and the police, and he left when he heard me on the phone with the police. And he called the police as well, saying that I was his ex-girlfriend and that he had left a gun in my house that he wanted back. He started sending messages saying things like,
"Can I please have my stuff back?"
And,
"I don't know why you're acting like you're scared of me, because we had a really good relationship."
The police showed up to my house and I showed them the messages. The police officer texted him from my phone to not contact my number anymore, and they found a loaded gun right outside of my house. He had already left and he gave the police the same fake name. The messages and calls stopped for about a month after this incident. That is, until I started receiving gifts on my porch. They came with notes attached, telling me how sorry he was that he caused us to break up, and how all he wanted to be was my child's dad and husband one day. He then messaged my best friend again, asking her if she would help us get back together, and that if he keeps messaging me, if I'll keep getting mad at him. I ended up finding out his real name, and I found multiple charges for assaulting women and kidnapping, amongst other things. The police have told me my only option at this point is to get a restraining order, but no one knows where this man lives, and he doesn't have a job, so it's going to be almost impossible to find him, and that it's not illegal for him to be in my neighborhood or to send messages, because he hasn't been served a no-contact order. I'll be sure to provide an update if anything else happens in the future. I was 19 when this happened. I'm a female if that matters. I live in the UK, and it was 2018, beginning of May, just before that awful soupy heat was here to stick around. I was working late, and I had made it home around 10:30 p.m. I decided that I wanted some snacks and something more exciting for dinner than just pasta, so I headed to Tesco at about 11 p.m., which is just over a mile up the road. I had been doing this for years without ever coming close to the fright that I felt on this day. I had gone to the cash machine the day before too, and therefore I had around 160 pounds on my person. My mom was borrowing her dad's car at the time. He loved this car, and my mom was pretty protective of it since it was her dad's, and it was also parked outside of the gates, but still on the driveway. It's a double driveway, so the cars can park bumper to bumper, but there's big double gates in between. I was making a bit of noise getting my bike out from the shed, so I didn't hear it at first. Then there it was, singing. I frowned. It sounded close. I opened the gate and got my bike through safely. The singing was turning into shouting, and then quite obviously a drunk slurring of words. I snapped my head to the left, and sure enough, a man about 25 years of age leaning up against said car. It was honestly quite jarring to see him that close. I was on the other side of the car luckily, but I hopped on my bike and sped the hell out of there. I pulled out my phone and I rung my stepmom, telling her all about the guy leaning up against the car and how he seemed drunk. Now, it wasn't really out of the ordinary to come across drunk people when there was just a pub over up the road especially, but also we're extremely close to the town center, and this was a Saturday night. I asked her to just let mom know, and she can sort it out if she wants. I was still on the phone when I pulled up to a roundabout that I would have had to cross over to get where I was going, so I do just that. I pull up and stop, look to my right for vehicles, and that's when I see something out of the corner of my eye. I almost dropped my phone because there was absolutely nowhere for this man to have come from, and he didn't make a single sound. He was on a bike too, which is the first thing that I noticed. He looked to be around my height, 6 foot, though he could have been taller. He was mostly sat down. His eyes, skin, and hair were all dark, as well as the clothes he was wearing. So it was hard to get a good judge of age since it was completely dark out too. I would say that he looked around early to mid-20s. In typical British fashion, I then said, "You all right?" And I did that stupid smile thing you do to strangers.
Do you live close to here?
His voice was a bit quiet, but other than that, it was ordinary. My stomach was doing somersaults. "Yeah, not too far. Why?" Of course, I was about 90 seconds from my house on my bike, less if I put some effort into it. I frowned, not really sure what was happening.
Oh, well, you just look lost. That's all.
I frowned even harder because I certainly didn't look lost. I mean, I was clearly on the phone, having a conversation that had nothing to do with directions. And if I had Google Maps open, why would my phone be up to the side of my face? My mind raced with the possibilities of where he could have come from and how I hadn't heard him approach me until he was 3 feet away. There's only one place that I can think of, not in the moment, but looking back. My house is part of a row of houses, and at the far end of the row furthest from my house is a trail. It's not very long, and it just leads around the back of some industrial buildings and the local rubbish tip. But there wasn't so much as the moonlight to light your way down there. He could have easily been in hiding waiting for the next person. It just so happened to be me. So I replied, Nope, not lost." I laughed awkwardly, then gestured to my phone, wanting to just get back to my conversation. He bids me good night and crosses the road ahead of me, and I watch as he then crosses again and goes and sits down at the bus stop. Now at first, I'm pretty relieved. Okay, he's just catching the bus. Chill out. But then when I realized what bus stop he was at, my heart sank even more. The thing about this stop was that Tesco was its last stop, and it actually would have taken him less time to get there on his bike than it would have if he waited for the bus to even get there. The bus then loops back around and goes down the same road to go along its route back to the town center. There was no reason for him to be stopped there. I didn't know it at the time, but I have autism. So if you're wondering why I didn't just go home, it was because I had already set in my mind to this plan, and nothing was going to stop me from executing those plans. Also, because I'm autistic, I tend to be nonverbal in high anxiety-inducing situations. This will be relevant shortly. I got off the phone with my stepmom, and I rang my boyfriend at the time, now ex. I was telling him that I was just popping to Tesco, and also what it was I had planned for dinner, and I was just catching up with him. I cycle past this guy on the other side of the road, and I mention to my boyfriend that I think I'm being followed. Well, he tells me I'm not, and that I'm being dramatic. I looked back, and sure enough, he was on his fucking bike. He was gaining speed, so he was cycling alongside me on the other side of the road, and within seconds he was ahead of me. I could not yet breathe a sigh of relief because this man then turns to the right, crosses the road, and then heads back for me. I tell this to my boyfriend, who simply thinks that there isn't even another person around. My hands are now sweaty. My mind starts whirling with possibilities. If he just wants to rob me, then great. He can have my money, my phone, whatever. I just didn't want to be hurt. Of course, I've completely clammed up, gone nonverbal, and I'm now a stuttering mess. I'm barely making any sense to my boyfriend who's on the phone. The guy starts talking to me.
How old are you?
His voice was exactly the same. It was quiet, calm. 19 was all I managed to say.
Oh, cool. Me too. I've just moved to the area.
I nodded. I didn't know what else to say. I couldn't say anything. He had positioned his bike so that I was unable to get past his with mine. My boyfriend was still on the other end of the phone, growing annoyed because I wasn't talking to him.